Welcome everyone to today's stream. There have been several contacts between Roma and Atalanta over the last couple of hours, and we have a massive axis which is being built between the two sides. Now, you can see Muriel on the thumbnail of this video, but as I will speak about in this live stream, it isn't just Muriel. Like, this is a really big axis. It's a really big interest of several players on both sides. So in this live stream, we'll break down everything that this kind of axis between Roma and Atalanta has to share. But before talking about that, I want to talk about something because, I feel like, yes, we can definitely see that in these last couple of days, if not in the last week, Thiago Pinto has just kind of slowed down all of his actions towards Roma's transfer market. He started off really well. Bought Matic, bought Svilor, bought Celik, all of that. And then Frattesi was really close. And then he kind of really slowed down. And this is something we can see. Now, if you ask me, I'm not worried at all. And I feel like a lot of people are worried, and I don't blame you because Thiago Pinto hasn't done anything in these last couple of days. But I want to say one thing which hopefully will kind of relighten your mood about the Roma's transfer market. Now, we can all agree that last year, this season, upcoming, and all of this season which is ahead of us and will come ahead of us will be a big fight to try and get fourth between Roma and Napoli. Because Juventus and Inter Milan have shown that they are, and AC Milan as well, have shown that they are, that they're clear of Roma and Napoli right now. I think the big fight, and I think many of us can agree on this, the big fight to try and get fourth position this season will be between Roma and Napoli. And potentially, Lazio can get in that fight, but I think the primary fight to try and get fourth this season will be between Napoli and Roma. Now, I want to say something, not just because I want to be positive, but it is the reality of what's going on in the Serie A's transfer market, and I hope that, yes, Thiago Pinto is taking a lot of time, yes, Thiago Pinto may potentially be worrying a lot of you guys, but I'm going to say one thing. Our biggest opponents, which are going to be and are going to try and get fourth before of us next season, which is Napoli, are living one hell of a tough situation. You do not want to be a Napoli supporter right now. Yes, Napoli remains an overall great team with very passionate fans, with a very experienced manager, with some top quality players. But all of the talent that Napoli had over the last couple of seasons, and I'm not just talking about last season, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, has just... And this is something which, as Roma fans, it's sad to see that team in that shape, but it's something we should be kind of happy about. Napoli are living an absolute mess because of their owner. They are living a mess. And yes, Thiago Pinto isn't doing anything great to kind of make the gap between Roma and Napoli clear this season, but Napoli is living a very tough moment. Koulibaly, gone. Insigne, gone. Mertens, most probably gone. Fabian Ruiz, that guy isn't giving him any contract. The owner of Napoli is a very selfish owner. And Napoli right now are living a situation which today, at time of speaking, the 14th of July 2022, I think can put Roma in a very advantageous position over the course of next season. Now, what I'm trying to say here is not that the fact that Napoli's living a shit of a situation, that means that we will get fourth, because Thiago Pinto does need to make the gap between Roma and Napoli more clear. If we can get two quality players, two strategic signings, and maybe support for Tammy and the centre-back, the gap between Roma and Napoli will be very big. So this is something which puts us on an advantageous position. So yes, it is okay to be worried because Thiago Pinto, as a Roma fan myself, I am admitting, isn't doing much. Started off really well. But we've got one exact month until our first Serie A match. 1 month is a lot of time. Many things can happen in 1 month. So yes, it's okay to always want more, because that's the spirit. But just remember that our biggest opponents are living a very tough moment. And I can't emphasize the word very anymore. They are living. I've got quite a few Napoli friends, and they are not convinced about this project at all. At all. So that is the situation we're at. I just wanted to say this because, yes, kind of to relighten some of you guys' moods. But still, today I want to talk about transfer news, obviously, and this big axis which has been formed between Roma and Napoli when it comes to the transfer market, and why the two boards have had a lot of Atalanta have had a lot of talks, a lot of contacts in the last couple of hours. So this is something which we'll talk about today. Now, as you can see on the screen, I put the red list on, which is the players which Mourinho wants to be sold. El Shaarawy, you can see, is the last one out of the 4 players. I think much of El Shaarawy's future depends on the offer we receive. If offers are good, then I think El Shaarawy will leave. Otherwise, he will stay. But the 3 players, Carles Perez, Villar, and Diawara, are all players which Mourinho wants out of the team and that we can make a profit from. And as you can see, Atalanta and Cadiz from Spain are interested in Carles Perez. Villar is basically 95% going to become a new Monza player, and Diawara is the complicated one because many teams are interested in him, such as Hertha Berlin, Galatasaray, Valencia, but none of these teams have actually presented an offer yet. Diawara is a very difficult situation, but he needs to get out of the team as soon as possible, so hopefully he does. Right, big axis has been formed when it comes to the transfer market between Roma and Atalanta. Atalanta are interested in a few of our players, and Roma are interested in a few of their players. What does that bring? That brings kind of connections from the two sides, and the fact that Atalanta are interested in a few of our players to improve their team, and Roma are interested in some of their players to improve the team, only means that contacts will continue to happen in the next couple of days. Connections, link-ups, both teams are having direct contacts and are gonna continue to have direct contacts in the next couple of hours. Who are the players Atalanta is interested in, and who are the players Roma is interested? You're probably asking yourself at home. Let's start from Atalanta. Atalanta are interested, as you can see from the screen, on Carles Perez and Stefan El Shaarawy. I think these two are players which, if we can get better players, and not necessarily just more talented players, but more strategic players, which are more used to our way of play. Because, for example, I think El Shaarawy, as much as I love him as a player, does not fit in how Mourinho plays. We've seen El Shaarawy so many times this season playing as a effing left back. El Shaarawy can't play as a left back. El Shaarawy this season was good for one thing, which was that last second goal against Sassuolo, which meant Mourinho ran as mad in front of the Curvasuit. That is exactly and the only reason of why El Shaarawy was useful to the team. Other than that, El Shaarawy this season was useless. Not just because he's not good of a player, but because Mourinho puts him in a position that isn't his position. He plays El Shaarawy too deep. And if Mourinho continues to play him this deep, it's really useless to have him on our side. And if a big offer approaches, El Shaarawy needs to get sold, not just because I'm done with him, but for him, for the better of his career, for the best options of his career. He needs to leave, because I think he needs to understand that in the attack side, where El Shaarawy used to play with other managers, like Fonseca, for example, Mourinho is not gonna play him. So this is something which he needs to understand, and hopefully he understands. And Atalanta have shown interest in him. Gasperini is really much linked with him. He really loves El Shaarawy. In fact, Gasperini was one of his first managers when he was a teenager. So he knows El Shaarawy really well and has shown some desire to get El Shaarawy back in the Atalanta side. And the second player is Carlos Perez. Again, Carlos Perez, I've said this many times, I'd say 40% of the times, Carlos Perez gets subbed in and kind of has a positive impact. I don't mind him as a player, as a substitution player. I remember that goal against Salernitana, which started the comeback. He has good impacts to matches. But I have one problem with Carlos Perez, and I've said this many times. I'll say it again for new subscribers, for new people in this stream who didn't hear this already. Carlos Perez is a player who comes from Barcelona's academy team. What does that mean? In the Barcelona academy team, they kind of but they expect you to play, to become the new Messi, right? And you can clearly see that the Barcelona academy team has implemented that in Carlos Perez's veins. Because Carlos Perez always dribbles more than what he needs to do. He always dribbles and always moves in the same way, such that defenders understand him now. And again, I don't mind him as a substitution player, but if I get money, or if I get a better player in return, a more strategic player who's more ambitious when it comes to Roma, then I wouldn't think about it twice. I would do this exchange. And why am I saying exchange? Because the fact that I'm calling this an axis is that Atalanta are interested in El Shaarawy and Carlos Perez, and Roma, in return, is interested in Pasalic and Luis Muriel. Which, in return, if you ask me, I get Pasalic and Muriel for El Shaarawy and Carlos Perez. That's a yes, without thinking about it twice. That is a massive yes. It's a big yes. Pasalic and Muriel are very good strategic players. In fact, Pasalic is one of the players which, when we face Atalanta, somewhat scores against us every bloody time. So that's a good reason for getting him away from this mood. He always scores against us. It's like a curse. We play Atalanta, Pasalic scores against us. And Muriel is a very dangerous player. If Thiago Pinto and Mourinho have in mind of playing Muriel and having Muriel as a backup striker for Tammy, that means, that's great. Because it's immediate improvement. I can guarantee you now, this isn't confirmed yet, but I can guarantee you now that if Muriel becomes a new Roma player and potentially becomes Tammy's backup option, Tammy's vice, Tammy's substitution player, then I can guarantee you that he will score more goals than what Shomurodov and Carlos Perez and El Shaarawy scored combined in one season. He knows how to score goals. He knows the league very well. He's an experienced player. He's a very fast player, which is what we need, especially when we face teams which park the bus, like low teams, low quality teams. So, if you ask me, this is a very good exchange on our side, because Pasalic still is a player which can play in many different positions in the midfielder. Can play as attacking midfielder, scores many goals, as I said before, scores every time we play against them. So, yes, I really like this, if you ask me, and I think the two players which we could potentially give to them are way less talented and will have way less of an impact of the two players which we could get in return. So, yes. Now, there have been talks ongoing of a massive exchange, a massive loan. 2 players go to Atalanta, 2 players come to Roma. And this is why a big axis is being built between the two sides. However, one thing which I will point out is that getting Muriel is way easier than getting Pasalic. Pasalic has expressed his will to leave Atalanta, and he has confirmed this to Gasperini. But he is a way more complicated player to get than Muriel. Atalanta, when it comes to the Muriel side, have said, I am totally up to giving Muriel to you. They've opened the doors. They haven't rejected anything. they don't retain Muriel as a vital player. You know, they've opened the doors for Muriel. Roma have shown interest in Muriel. Atalanta's gone, okay, I can and will kind of potentially accept an offer which includes Muriel to you guys. But Atalanta has asked for one thing. In fact, we can say Gasperini has asked for one thing. If Muriel goes to Roma, Gasperini has expressed the will of having El Shaarawy in his team. As I said before, he's a player which he loves. He's been one of his first managers, so he knows him really well. So Atalanta have said, if you want Muriel, great. I'm not going to reject anything. I'm not going to say no to anything. But you need to give me El Shaarawy. And in my opinion, as I said before, I would do it 100%. Because I don't see El Shaarawy fit in Mourinho's system. As much as I love him as a player, Muriel does. Muriel totally does. Because I think Muriel could become... in fact, let me get him on. And let me get Pasalic on next. He is a player which I can see starting because, in worst possible cases, so Zaniolo leaves and we don't get Dybala, that's worst of worst cases, and we get Muriel instead, then Muriel will be a starting player. That's in worst cases. I think if Muriel comes, I think he will be Tammy's backup option. But in worst cases, if Zaniolo leaves, Dybala doesn't come, and all of that, I think Muriel will be a starting player. And otherwise, as I said, he will be Tammy's backup option. And that potentially means Shomurodov should go out and search for a loan. Or potentially even a sell. Because if Muriel comes in as Tammy's backup option, then Shomurodov will have no chances. And I mean no chances. So, Mourinho said that Shomurodov is, he wants to keep Shomurodov, which is interesting because, as I said before, if Tammy comes, if Muriel comes, then I don't see Shomurodov have any opportunities in this team. But Mourinho has expressed the will of keeping Shomurodov. In fact, let me put a poll on. Let's see what people think. Would you give El Shaarawy... Let me put the poll on. Would you sell, sorry. So, would you give El Shaarawy for Muriel? Yes. No. There you go. So let me see what you guys think. Let me know. I'll check the results of that poll in a bit. And the second player, as I said before, speaking about Muriel, he's 31 years old. His value is around 20 million. He's Colombian. He's an attacker. He's fast and knows how to score. In fact, last season, right, Muriel at Atalanta didn't start as a starting option because they had Zapata, but then when Zapata got injured, Muriel became their first option. Let me see. Muriel goes 21-22. Yeah, he scored. Let's see. How many goals did he score? He scored 10 goals last season. So it's not too bad, considering he's a backup option. Considering the fact Shomurodov only scored 2, if I'm not wrong, in the Serie A. And El Shaarawy scored 2, sorry. Or 3, something like that. So he's a player that, even if he's a backup option, he knows, he's experienced. He knows the league really well. So I would definitely do the Muriel exchange. The second one, as I said before, is Pasalic. Again, I think Pasalic is a player, used to play for Chelsea, obviously. And I said before, he always scores when he plays against us, which is a bloody curse. So we can avoid that if he comes to Roma. He's 27 years old. He's valued around 28 million. He's from Croatia and he's a midfielder. And he can play. He's sort of like, Mkhitaryan. And he can be Mourinho's second midfielder option after the bloody Frattesi if he bloody comes. So last thing I will do is speak about Frattesi. So will I think Thiago Pinto's waiting to officially, I mean, get that player from Sassuolo and bring him back to Rome, is Villar to officially go to Monza. It's 95% done. The only thing which is missing is Berlusconi saying okay to the deal. And then Villar will be a new Monza player. With that money, which is around 10 to 12 million, I think we can use that to sign Frattesi. However, there has been a drastic, stop in the Frattesi deal. I remember end of June, the two sides, were really keen on ending, they were really close. No agreement has been found. He really wants Roma, and he has really, really, really expressed that Sassuolo to the club that he wants to leave. Just like Zaniolo's done with Roma to Juventus. So, Roma are really now asking Frattesi to play a big part in this, because the deal has been stopped for almost 2 weeks now. So what Thiago Pinto has said, and I specifically asked this to Frattesi, is to make his voice loud, to say that he wants to leave. Because if Frattesi starts to go, I want to leave, 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 let me go, I love the club, I support Roma, please let me go, then Sassuolo will then end up asking and kind of lowering their expectations from the deal. So that is what Thiago Pinto is playing on right now when it comes to the Frattesi deal. And yeah, I mean, there is this big axis being built between Roma and Atalanta in these last couple of hours. Atalanta is interested in Corles Perez and El Shaarawy, and Roma is interested in Muriel and Pasalic, which I think are two better players than El Shaarawy and Corles Perez, which I think can bring more impact to the team, and are two very strategic signings because they wouldn't cost that amount of money as well. So let me see what you guys, in fact, let me read some comments and then I'll see what the poll says. Murat, Abraham and Dybala says, Zoltan Kohler, I want Pasalic, Sazam Rabas, signed free agents, Mata, James, James Rodriguez and Isco. Isco's gone to Sevilla apparently. James Rodriguez was another player we've been linked to. Too many link-ups, nothing being built. Why fourth? Why not second or third, even first? We need ambition. Napoli was third, don't forget it, and we was sixth. Well, what I'm saying is, why I'm not saying that we can get first, second or third is because that isn't our objective coming into the season. And if there is one thing which I think needs to be expressed is that we do not need to overhype our expectations. It is great to get first. It would be great to get first. It would be great to get second. It would be great to get third. But realistically speaking, if you compare our team with Juventus and Inter Milan, you just see a big gap. Our objective this season is not to win the league. The 14th of August against Salernitana, we're not stepping into the season going, I'm going to win the league. Yes, if we end up doing that, God save the Queen. But that isn't our objective. Our objective is to get fourth. If we start overhyping objectives, I want to win the Europa League, I want to get first in the league, I want to win the Coppa Italia, then you will end up at the end of the season going, what the hell just happened? Our objectives need to be clear. Last season our objective was to win the Conference League. We won the Conference League. This season the objective is to get fourth, and hopefully we'll get fourth. And, yes, Napoli did get third, but I think out of the 4 teams which got top 4 last season, Napoli was clearly the weakest one. That's exactly why out of 2 matches against Napoli last season, we lost 0. We drew both times. Good thing that the Ronaldo rumors didn't come true. Moore should be the next target after Dybala. I would do the swap of Elstra and Muriel. Will Pogba's situation ever happen in Roma with Zaniolo and Jose? It's a tough question, It's a tough question. Because Jose kind of understood that Zaniolo wants to leave. So he's not really giving that 100% faith that he could have given to Zaniolo at the end of the season when he scored that Conference League goal. I think Mourinho's expectations and view towards Zaniolo was like, I'm gonna believe in you next season. But if Zaniolo kind of said that he wants to leave, so Mourinho's kind of removed a lot of expectations from Zaniolo. If we add Frattesi, Dybala, and Muriel on either Isco or James, we will be in the Champions League. That's a big transfer market, and a centre-back added to that. But that would be great, you know. That is the, you know, that's the transfer market of dreams. It won't be like that. Hopefully it will be similar to that. Watching from West Africa, Monrovia, Liberia. Shout out to you. Is Zakaria coming to Roma? Any information on Frattesi? I mean, Roma's really pushing on his will. Roma's really, you know, he wants to leave. He wants Roma. He's a Roma fan. And what Thiago Pinto's trying to do is that he wants Sassuolo to understand that he wants to leave so that they can lower their expectations. But I said it last time, I'm going to say it again. If by Sunday we don't have something real, something valid, an agreement being found between the two sides, Roma are fed up. Roma will not point their eyes on Frattesi anymore and will change objectives. We've given far too much time for Sassuolo. You know, yes, okay, I respect you, but you're not Real Madrid. You're Sassuolo. You can accept a Frattesi deal, especially when I give you money, cash, and two players. They're, you know, they're making Frattesi seem as if he's Benzema or someone. He's good. I respect you as a club, but you aren't Real Madrid. You know, I've given you far too much time to think about that. So if by Sunday an agreement isn't found, I think Thiago Pinto, you know, will start looking for new objectives, for new players. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's try and get 5,000 subscribers as fast as possible, and don't forget to smash the like button in this live stream as well. I'll check the results of the poll in a sec. In the meantime, if you haven't already, share the link with your families and friends, and follow me on Instagram over there in the orange box over at Simon lower score, AS lower score. Let's see what people think when it comes to the poll. Oh my god, I'm sweating as mad. Let's see. Let's see what people think. So 84 says yes, 84% says yes, and 16% says no. So yeah, I think I'm with you guys here. So Roma need to sell Mancini to sign a new centre back. Well, Mancini just renewed until 2027, so that's not happening. And I don't think we should sell Mancini. I think if we really need to sell a centre back, which I highly doubt, but if we really need to sell one, I'd say Ibanez. So yeah, I'll catch you soon. Simon out.